Hello, friends. The sun is clothing the earth with greenness here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's a lovely day. Spring has arrived in New England, finally, and I hope spring has arrived wherever you are. Today, I'll be joined by my partner and friend, Mike Nugent. Mike and I got back from New York FinTech Week recently. We had an excellent time, met a lot of old friends, made some new friends as well. Mike was a bit of a star, appearing on multiple panels and pitching Vestigo to different founders. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things he learned and some of the things he saw. So thanks so much for tuning in. And without further ado, let's get to my chat with Mike. Mike, it's good to have you back on camera to talk about New York FinTech Week.
Morning, Fraser. How you doing today?
Very, very well. So I got to, well, I had the joy of being in the audience during the investor reverse pitch. So it was easier for me than for you, but that was, I think, where you and I kind of synced up at FinTech Week. So maybe we can kick it off by talking a little bit about your experience.
Absolutely. And for those of you not aware of New York FinTech Week, make sure you do participate. It was wonderful to see 5,000 registered attendees, and definitely want to give a shout out to John Zanoff and the team at Empire Startups for championing this for the last 11, 12 years now. And funny enough, I was actually at the inaugural one that John put together way back when I was running Bison. So it was great to be back there and see the world back together post-pandemic supporting fintech. But the kickoff that I got to participate in was the investor reverse pitch, which was that Tuesday morning, I believe. And John has a wonderful way of making sure to keep everybody on their toes. So fantastic connection at the Barclays Rise building down on 23rd, and that's another one that's done a great job of supporting the fintech community is Barclays and their entire Rise platform, and then also World Stage up on 50th. But great mix and mingle. Everyone's hanging out, and then John sort of surprises you and grabs you by the elbow and says, "Hey, go get on stage." What are you talking about? I thought we were going to have this nice little speed dating session, and everyone was going to get to speak to each other. Then they had 10 of us lined up in the front row, all to get up and pitch. And it was really kind of fun. It was that little bit of energy to get back up on stage and have to actually pitch your wares, pitch your benefit to society. So great list of co-investors, folks that we've looked at many deals with, and I'd say the majority of them we've actually invested with. And everyone kind of went down the line and gave their spiel. Surprisingly, New York FinTech Week was a lot of fintech investors. We were second to last to present, so it was kind of easy to call out what we were doing. But I have to give credit to the founders that get up and pitch multiple times a day, every day. I'm out of practice, and to get up there, I was like, I got to hit the high points, but I forgot all the humor, so I didn't make fun of myself for wearing a Vestigo vest, wearing the typical bro gear like everyone else. Somebody had to wear the token one. So it was great. And, lots of attendance and, a lot of interest, both from the large, FIs and the incumbent innovators, as well as, startups that are in the area too. So it was a great way to kick off the week.
And I believe you sort of capped it with a panel on open banking and innovation. So I know you were studying up pretty hard, throughout the week on that one. So would love to hear some of the things that came out of that discussion.
Yeah, the open banking side, and there's sort of two pieces. We had a panel up on stage on open banking, and then we did a banking innovation roundtable. And the thing that I'd say sort of stands out. One is just the interest from the large banks about really understanding and what to do and how to sort of make sure this is an internal benefit for them and their customers, and not an external threat to the way they do business. Likewise, there's a lot of companies out there that are really bringing this value to the end consumer, be it individuals or companies. What can they do? What's easier to build? What's faster to get to than what the bank's current internal structure is able to accommodate? There's positives and negatives with everything, right? So if we have open banking and this banking information is now more readily available at more endpoints, that's pretty sensitive information, right? So we want to make sure that we've got the security, the entire transfer of information locked down and understood what's there. But the ability for folks to access where they might be, we've talked about these nutritional deserts, there's banking deserts, there just isn't a way for a lot of folks to access these financial institutions to make sure that they're doing what they should, or at least building a financial persona, here in the States. And for that, probably throughout the world, right? So to be able to actually build in and sort of create this inclusivity, from these additional applications, and now you're actually utilizing the data, you're building a credit profile, you've got something going on, even though you can't get to a major top 10 bank somewhere, wherever you are, it's going to be powerful. The interesting comment that came up was talking about the what industries are sort of doing the most, and then who's sort of been on the strongest forward foot. I mean, there was actually a conversation about, does fintech actually need to have a lobbying group? And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. There's been this talk of fintechs having to be regulated. And well, fintechs have to be regulated, they should really have a voice at the table with the regulators and in DC to understand what is that level, what are those, what's that requirement needed if they're going to be simply providing better insights and aggregating data versus are they providing actions and transactions, and who actually bears the responsibility if there's a leakage of information. So it really is, still early innings in fintech. We've heard a lot of talk about, all these great big things have happened, and there's so much. We're still so early. I mean, we don't even know how open banking is going to work and when it actually comes online. And what we can really do is look to the rest of the world. Europe is definitely out ahead of us, but those emerging markets that have no banking infrastructure, it's a great place to see how do others actually have financial transactions and use their mobile phone or whatever it may be when there's a lack of a banking infrastructure or system for them to do.
That's absolutely fabulous. And, it's no secret that, the markets are somewhat more bleak than they were, especially around technology investing. After spending a week with the best and brightest in fintech, what are the biggest opportunities still that you see? What are the biggest challenges? And maybe one or two from each.
Yeah, I'd say an interesting commentary came from both sides, the founders, but also the incumbents, really looking deep into the digital identity or reusable identity. Where are people able to sort of get the scalability versus sort of this painful bespoke data that has to come together? And every time someone's going through and doing an application, KYC, KYB is a massive component of being able to make sure you've got high fidelity on good customers, but also you're not taking unnecessary risk. But there's always been a hesitancy for one FI to use the underwriting of another FI. Are we going to be able to get to shared repositories, and whether it's decentralized or not, how do we actually have a better set of information to not make it so painful? And what we just saw with the banks, a few weeks ago with SVB and Signature Bank and now FRB, it was really difficult for folks to actually go through the KYB process and just get up and going if they didn't have a relationship. But if there is more of a standard identity, is that a way to go through? So that was a topic of a lot of conversation. The other area that it seemed like folks were dabbling in was really trying to get their head around was the BNPL. On the BNPL, there isn't anything that's really aggregating or showing the total exposure or what's the total liability with it. I was really impressed with one of the banks where they were saying, look, we see so much of this activity and volume going through our customers' accounts, but we're not accounting for what that's actually doing. And what are the periods of difficulty that are going to come up with, and when are they going to hit some of these onerous fees? So now you have the banks embracing a need to actually understand what is essentially a competitor to their old credit cards, but making sure that this is something where it's embedded finance that's actually well understood and protecting their customers from potentially predatory fees and of the lending. So that there's some interesting areas that are coming up, and a lot of interest on both sides from the founders and from the incumbents.
Well, Mike, thanks so much. As always, very thorough, very thoughtful. And I'm looking forward to doing this again next year because we'll be back for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Fraser, it was great to be in New York with you. You did an excellent job organizing all the Vestigo activities. So thank you for bringing me along for the ride.
Always great. Thanks, Mike. Bye for now.
Bye now.